We're back out here once again, and today we're talking about how sometimes those bass can be very sneaky. Today they tried to pull a fast one on me, but once I figured it out, I had just the bait to save my day. Stick around, you don't want to miss this one. There we go, there's another one. Ooh, that one's not bad either. That's another one a couple minutes later. Stay down. Okay. And here is this video's featured comment. Congratulations! If you would like to have a chance to have your comment featured in an upcoming video, all you've got to do is leave a comment. And now, on with the video. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing. And sometimes when we get out on the water and we think we have those bass figured out, things aren't always as they appear to be. Today was a great example of that. When I got out to the big lake, I put my little boat in and I started to go out to the water. And all around me, I saw bass busting up. And you think to yourself, this is going to be a great day. Those bass are active, they're feeding. Top water, right? That's going to be the first thing that I tie on. A frog, a spook, a buzzbait, something. Top water's got to be the deal. But not so fast. As we've talked about before, just because you see bass busting doesn't automatically mean that top water is going to be the best choice. Sometimes you have to pay attention as to how those bass are busting. What are they doing? Are you seeing just the splash of the bass, or are you seeing bait balls near the surface, those telltale ripples of small minnows and clouds of them just rippling back and forth as they're trying to get away from the bass, and you see the bass chasing them? If you're seeing the latter, chances are it's going to be a great day for topwater, as those small bait fish are going to be close to the surface and the bass are chasing them. So they're going to be more amped up and they're going to be more ready to hit a topwater bait. Whether it's a spook, whether it's a buzz bait, whether it's a prop style bait, you have a lot of different choices based on the circumstances that you're seeing. But today was kind of frustrating to start out. I got out there and there were bass busting up all around me. Nice bass. And I tied on topwater. It's what I thought, okay, well, we'll start with topwater and we'll start with a hard plastic jerkbait. I tied on a Berkeley stunner and I went to work. Nothing. Not a thing. Even when I saw those bass busting and I cast right in that area, nothing. They completely ignored it. Well, that told me something. Even when we aren't able to catch fish, we have to look at it for what it is. That is information, and we need to use that information to build, to put the pieces of the puzzle together, to analyze what's going on so we can figure out what's going on and have the right answer for it. So I noticed those bass were not biting topwater and they were not biting a jerkbait. So I went a little bit farther north and I said, okay, well, maybe I just need to be in a little bit shallower water. Maybe those bass are in too deep a water to want to worry about topwater. And the day progressed, it was more of the same. I was seeing bass all around me. There was activity all around me. And as a bass angler, any bass angler, they will tell you when you see those bass busting, and no matter what you do, you can't get a bite, it's almost like they're laughing at you. It's almost like they're teasing you, making fun of you. But you can figure it out. You can put those pieces together and you can figure it out. I had that aha moment about halfway through the day. I realized, okay, these bass are actually suspending. They're sitting lower in that water column, below the surface, and they're looking up. They're seeing those bait fish swim above them, and they're darting up to attack them and then going back down. That's why they're not hitting topwater. And the jerkbait that I was using, the stunner, and I tied on a couple other ones, they were not getting deep enough, or they did not have the right action to trigger those bass. It's not what they wanted. But I realized, okay, these bass are suspending. They're chasing something very particular. I saw there were quite a few other boaters around me, because there always is quite a few other boaters around me. I decided, you know what? I think I've got the very best thing that I can tie on. And that is, well, this, right? It's a square bill, but it's not just any square bill. This is a KVD 2.5, and it doesn't have any rattles. Now, that doesn't mean it's silent underwater. It's got all those hooks and snap rings, and it's got all that hardware that makes plenty of noise as it's moving underwater, but it doesn't really have any thump. So the bass aren't getting bombarded with that vibration of that thump. This to them is a lot more quiet presentation. And it was right at that depth that I thought those bass were hiding at. Once I tied this on and I threw it out, it totally changed the entire complexion of the day. Well, he's going in that pocket, but he can have that pocket. There's nothing in there. Ooh, there we go. That's not a bad one. I had two followed in. Ooh, that's a good one too. Had two follow it in. All right. Let's get the hooks out of this guy. KVD. I had 3 of them on it there. You're done. You in the belly. Yeah, got them in the belly pretty good. All right, let's get this last one out. All right, there we go. Pound and a quarter, pound and a half, right in that area. Beautiful little fish. Great way to start it out. Crankbait's going good. Let's go get another one. So, right off the bat, first few casts in, and I had a very nice bass. But the best part about that is there were 2 other bass following that bait in. And that bass hit it right near the boat. Beautiful. You love to see it. Right as you're about to pull that bait out of the water, you can see those bass strike. There were 3 of them there, and 1 of them committed. You always like that fear of missing out. That is a situation you try to create for those bass as often as you can, because it always means you're going to get good bites. It also meant I was definitely on the right track. I had found what those bass were after. They didn't want a noisy square bill. They wanted a quiet square bill. And I went with what I thought they were chasing. I thought they were chasing shad, so I went with a shad pattern, a sexy shad pattern. And even though that water was a good bit of stain, you've got to think, those shad, they don't have rattles in them. And there was a lot of pressure, so they got bombarded with a lot of noisy crankbaits and traps and plugs. So I figured this was going to be the ticket, and it turned out to be the ticket. That was not the only fish that I caught. It wasn't 5 minutes later, and I had pulled out another nice fish right in that area. So it felt very good. I had figured out the puzzle. The bass tried to pull a fast one on me. They tried to be sneaky. They tried to play like it was going to be a topwater day, but it wasn't going to be a topwater day. They didn't want something that was slow. I didn't use a Waco rig. I didn't use a wacky rig to target those suspending bass. And if someone tells you suspending bass just don't bite, I'm telling you, they do. I target suspending bass all the time, and I do it on purpose because those are some of the best bites. A lot of times they get left alone. Either people are going to be dragging a worm, which I love to do. I love to drag a worm, and I love to drag a jig. It's a great presentation, and you can get a lot of good bites in the summer. Also, a lot of people are going to be fishing topwater. Again, I love to fish topwater. I get a lot of great bites fishing topwater, whether it's a spook, whether it's a boy howdy, or whether it's a frog. You guys have seen I have caught a lot of fish this summer on topwater. But those suspending bass, those are the bass that a lot of people just ignore. They think those bass are off limits, that those bass are just not catchable. And that's not true. They're very catchable. You just have to go to them on their level. Find out what they want. Today, for me, it was this. It was a more quiet presentation, and I didn't burn it. I worked it pretty quick, but this outfit here that I have, this combo, this is my brand new casting combo. This is a bigger casting combo that I got. I got a 7.2 Shimano rod, This is a medium heavy, and it's got a, I believe this has got a fast action tip on it. So it's a little bit more of a backbone. I've got this luge bait cast on here. This is a speed spool, and it's got 7 5-to-1. So this is a pretty fast reel, especially for cranking. So I didn't need to burn it. I just cranked pretty good, paused it, cranked it pretty good, and paused it. And I've got 12-pound fluorocarbon on here because I kind of want thinner line so I can get those longer casts and I can get those baits just a little bit deeper. This ordinarily runs anywhere from about 4 to 7 feet, and I was hitting that 7-foot range. That's about the area that I was at. It worked beautifully. Now, I didn't fish a lot of thick cover with it. I stayed right along the seams. That's where I tried to target. I found that submerged creek channel, and I tried to bring that bait right through that submerged creek channel, right over that little valley that was in the water. And lo and behold, that was the sweet spot. That's where those bass were hiding out. And this doesn't mean you can't do it from the bank. As we talked about before, look for places that have structure and cover along the bank that those bass can have some deep water access to. A square bill can be an amazing bait to work parallel to the bank. Just because you're a bank fisherman doesn't mean you can't fan cast in that area. And I do mean fan cast. Don't cast to the same area 3 and 4 times, because once you've made that cast, those bass, if they were going to bite, they knew that bait was there. Move on, make your next cast. Move on, make your next cast. Then move to a new spot. Try to stay in that same kind of area where those bass have that access to deeper water. If you can find something like a dock or a pier, or you can find something, some sort of cover or structure that they can relate to and still have that deeper water access, a square bill can be money. If you've got a lot of pressure, try something that doesn't make a lot of noise, something that only has the hardware to it, not any rattles. For me, that was the ticket. That adjustment, going from knowing those bass were not going to top water, but they were suspended, and seeing those baits up above them, seeing that minnow cloud up above them, and then attacking that way, that adjustment and adjusting my baits and my presentations accordingly, that totally changed my entire day. So there you have it. On those days when those bass are trying to pull a fast one, analyze what it is they're really doing. Once you figure that out, you can make the appropriate changes to your baits and your techniques, and you can go from not catching any fish to catching more and more bass. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.